Hey guys, we got some gear here. A Tungsten 74 blade, a new Deluxe from Gillette. It's a vintage razor, and it is the 15mm version. A 1305 Boar brush from Semogue, and as you can see, Prix de Provence number 63 is the soap for today. I've had the puck of soap soaking for just a couple of minutes. It's been a load for a nice long time because this is a soft, small Boar brush. I've had him in water for several minutes. This is the razor. You can see it almost has like a copper or a red brass top cap color. Standard brass base plate. Here is the bar style handle. Now, I was told by the person who sold it to me that this is not the typical bar handle that was sold with this one, so it might be a little bit of a mismatch. I think he said the typical one had the shoulder here cut flat. And here we can also continue to see the difference in the colors of the base plate and the top cap. I don't think the top cap is copper. I think it's just kind of a red brass or something like that. But it's the color of copper. Maybe an educated user out there can help me out. The top cap does have the 4 posts on the corners to help with blade alignment, in addition to the rail there. And the way you tell if it's a 15 or a 17 is you measure between where the cutout for the teeth stops. So between here and here, and that's 15mm. Here's what the base plate looks like. So this is this is an American one. All right, so I am going to take the 74. This is one I'm going to marathon. I think I've got about 11 uses on it already. Sorry, I got a little bit of a sore throat, as you can tell. This handle doesn't weigh very much, and so unless I put another handle on it, it's a very head-focused center of gravity. Yeah, really right around where this ring is right here. And that's actually still a little even more forward than that is the balance point. So it's very head. I need to get a brass handle. I've got a bunch of stainless handles, but I don't have a lot of brass ones. All right, so that blade is in. Let me get my face a little wet. And we'll start loading this soap. This is one that I'm testing to see how many ounces or grams of soap I use, per use, because it's a quad milled soap, so it should be very little. And then I can tell, is this thing going to last me a year and a half? I think those are realistic figures based on what I've seen, heard, and from other people. Let's get rid of some water. Poured out the soap, the rinse water, the soak water here. And then let's start loading. The 0 mark rolled around right there. I think I'm just going to load for a full minute with this small brush. I've definitely come up against this soap in situations where I just didn't load enough. Could probably help that by soaking it for longer, but with my routine, I'd rather load for a little bit longer than soak for anything longer than 10 or 5 minutes. I just like to soak for as long as I prep my gear, We definitely got froth overflow, and that's 40 seconds. It's kind of funny, kind of crazy how quickly that goes by. This does splay easily, so I may collect up some of this soap that's around the tin, since this brush is probably tending to There we go. That's a minute. And you can kind of see there's some airiness that came out first, and then it got more dense. Then look at what's on the top of the soap. It gets more dense as you go. So I'm going to collect up the kind of the densest stuff. I'm going to leave the airy stuff there. All right, I'm going to rinse this off. All right, so let's see if I guessed right with a minute of loaded. This brush has medium backbone. Feels nice and soft on your face. It's got premium grade bristles from Semogue. And I'm going to start adding my water. This is hard water, and it's cool. Went ahead and added 2 teaspoons right away because I think it's definitely going to use that much. So why not shortcut? Just remember, I like to remember to mix slowly so it doesn't splash out right away. If you want to play around and experiment, you can try adding water slowly or adding it quickly. There are definitely some soaps that prefer you to add it more slowly. Many soaps don't mind either way. Now in the past I've added maybe a little too much water for this soap. So I just added half a teaspoon. I'm going to do some good mixing here. Oh yeah, that really helped right there. You sometimes need to get a little bit of water in there just to get it all to start mixing. And that last bit really helped to reduce the bubbles. And that's what I'm going to do now, is just work on, giving it a good stir. This pushing down motion helps to shove the lather up into the middle of the brush, and that's good for getting at any water that might be in the brush, and also just making sure we have a good mix. I'm going to try to run this a little drier than I usually do and see if I get a little better feel with the lather. I haven't produced a lot of lather so far, but I do believe it'll be plenty to do the job. So I don't feel like I need to add more water for that purpose. Yeah, it's starting to solidify and look creamy. It feels like it doesn't have very much viscosity at all. I think that's often what people are calling cushion. It's got a little bit of slickness, but just doesn't look like it has any cushion or viscosity at all. So you know what I want to do? I could shave with it and it would probably be just fine. I'm going to go back to the soap a little bit. Let's add a little bit of water to the puck here. Gather up some more soap. wouldn't it be funky if I had to load for longer than a minute, you know? That was about 15 seconds. Let's do another 15 seconds. All right, let's get back to finishing off the loading. I'm gonna put a little bit more, a few more drops of water on the soap, and I think 10 more seconds, and that'll give us a minute and a half of loading. So with these little soft bores, that might be what you need to do, just a nice long load time. Okay, so now the leather looks good, but it just didn't have any cushion. And so, no doubt, if I had taken that to my face, it would have dissipated pretty quickly. I could have added water and had something fairly slick enough to shave comfortably with. But that's not kind of what I'm trying to find here. It's a vegan soap, and so it doesn't have the benefit of the slickness of the tallow. And so far, while this soap has been enjoyable to shave with, it hasn't really given very good finger feel, at least anything other than like a wet slickness to it. But I think this is a great soap for pragmatic users who don't have a lot of money. Saw it once on eBay or something for $9, and I think this is going to last you longer than a year. And it's got a great scent, and it's comfortable, and it works. It's slick on your face. It feels good on your face, and so it's not trying to compete with a top tier. You know, I'm just working on maybe trying to get the best out of it that I can. And so I think it's made for somebody who wants to get a lot of value for their money. There we go. Now all these peaks, it's definitely not what I usually go for with a tallow soap or most other soaps. But when you run it a lot drier than you normally do, that's what you're going to get. All right, let's feel of it now. Yeah, a little bit more, but still fairly, still very, there's just nothing there. It does leave a little bit of a slick layer. I'm interested to see if I'm gonna have to add some water to this once it's on my face, as if perhaps it hasn't been activated yet. Because as I wipe my thumb across and I go back, there's just very little slickness remaining. Probably enough to do the job just fine, but it doesn't really give you a luxurious feel. But again, it's not a luxurious price point. So, you know, in a way, I might be trying to chase something that doesn't exist, but it's fun to play around. About a day and a half of growth. And this usually has been a very smooth shaver for me, so I'm looking forward to that. All right, so here we are. Let's work this a little bit before we start adding water. It feels like maybe it needs a little bit of water to kind of cream up, but sometimes I've done that in the past and I was a little premature, so maybe we'll scrub here for just a minute and watch how it behaves. See if it changes on its own. Lathers like this bring out the scrubby nature in some brushes. The lather can really mask the feel of the brush. If you run it too thick, then you can have a brush that's actually pretty scrubby and not all that comfortable, but you don't feel that because of the thickness of your lather. But when you have a thinner lather like this without very much viscosity or cushion, you feel the brush in more ways. And it feels a little bit more scrubby than usual. Yeah, see, now this is not coming together. It's actually loosening up. I'm glad I didn't add more water. So let's just grab a little bit more lather. There we go. We don't need a really thick layer on your face to start shaving. This is just fine. Great scent, love that. All right, vintage Gillette New Deluxe. How can you tell it from a new that's not a deluxe? And the deluxe shaves a lot better for me than the plain new. And when we say new, we write that in all caps, and that's how we tell it from the general word new. The normal new, starting from here and heading in toward the handle connection, and then continuing out the other side, has a kind of like a speed bump, has a lump. And you can see why, because you see they had to put a groove in it right there. And so they made it stronger by having the little bump there. Well, this one shaves a lot better for me than the new. We'll see how it shaves with the Tungsten 74. Going really well so far. I do feel the blade a little bit, but it's very minimal. Feels very controlled. Oh, my cross grain. Normally I go, yeah, and I can feel the lack of viscosity on this lather. One of the tests I'm going to do with this Prix de Provence is to do the Marco method with it, where you just load for a long time, even longer than I did today, and you just throw a lot of water at it as well. It's a good way to waste a lot of soap, but in some cases, well, let me put it this way. Some people, it depends on how you do it. You can do it some ways where you do waste a ton of soap, but you might get a good lather out of it. Some people find that it seems more natural and foolproof to do that method, and soap's pretty cheap, and so if you end up using it up twice as fast or something like that, then that's usually not going to break the bank. All right, let's rinse. That was just the first pass, and I got a great cut. I bet this razor with this blade looks like it might let me get away with 2 passes if I wanted. So even though I loaded for longer, and only used a little bit over 2.5 teaspoons of soap, I still have a lather that seems to be too thin. So we'll keep playing around with it. I do have enough for the 3 passes. looks like I will need to maybe try loading, you know, for 2 minutes next time. I'm not feeling a whole lot of slickness here with the razor. A little bit draggy. Sometimes what happens when the lather is got too much water in it. All right, a little half rinse. Get the water out of my beard. I don't want that to sneak down and dilute my lather even more. Well, this time I didn't have to go back to the puck. The other times where I've used my method on this and I just, you know, haven't loaded enough, I did go ahead and go back to the puck, and I was able to get something decent. And I thought that maybe a whole minute, you know, might be where I needed to go in terms of loading, but nope, not with these small bore brushes. Of course, that might be just exactly the right amount for a large badger, or a brush with a lot more scrub to it that really grinds away at the soap. With the American Cropes, it may be very easy to load the right amount. But with a hard soap like this, the difference that your brush makes could be a lot more noticeable. Like a small boar, a small soft boar versus a big scrubby badger might mean a difference in, you know, 10 or 15 seconds of load time with a Sterling or Barrister and Man soap. But it might mean a minute, perhaps, of load time in difference with this really hard soap. All right, my face feels pretty good. Let's see if it stays that way. This was a superior shave. I may feel a little more irritation than I normally do because I don't feel like I had the protection that I usually do because of this lather. But I think that this is just an excellent combination of razor and blade. I'm pretty sure that after the second pass, I had a great shave, and I just did minor touch-ups with it on the third pass because I don't have any hairs that are showing me any length in my trouble spot. I mean, I really have something close to baby butt smooth on my cheeks, and I didn't go against the grain at all. And so this is just an excellent shaver, very comfortable. I might have to use this one again with the next shave and enjoy how it feels with maybe a better lather. This lather was a little bit weak and thin. Still serviceable, but it's not, it's a little bit rougher on your skin. You might start to feel a little tenderness depending on the nature of your skin. So I'm gonna get a balm this time since I'm thinking my skin needs a little bit more healing. Let me go see what I have. Now, since this is a morning shave, which is odd for me, I'm gonna pick something that I wanna smell throughout the day, not just something that's kind of comforting during the evening. Also, this Gratiot League Square, it's post-shave salve from Chatillon Luxe. And it's the old formula where it would get a little loose in there. And so it's not a problem. You just mix it up with a toothpick or something like that, and then I'll be fine. Had some scissors nearby. They have nice needle nose type things, and after a little bit of mixing, it's no big deal at all. And what I often find is that what kind of overflows the jar and what's on the item I'm mixing with is plenty. Matter of fact, I'm probably gonna have to put some part of this back into the jar. I don't think I need that much. And with the salve, it's a little different than a balm. It's usually best not to put this, buttery looking stuff on your face right away. The instructions say to put it in your palm and then work it with your fingers until it just kind of melts into something that resembles like melted butter or something like that. But I found that my palm can't really get at my face. I can do kind of the corners of my cheeks and stuff, and so I do my fingertips. Just kind of rub it on my fingertips for a minute or two. You can feel it all slick. And then you can go to your face. Smells great. If you put too much on, it can kind of leave you with maybe a bit of a greasy feeling. But it is really nourishing. I think he updated his formula for the salve to where it doesn't separate quite as easily. I bought this used a couple of years ago, and I don't use it too much, but I got a feeling I'm going to get my money's worth out of it, no problem. And he may have even discontinued the salves. He may not have, but if you are interested in these guys, don't be surprised if you get to his site and they're not available. Maybe they didn't sell quite as good as he was hoping, but feels great. Healing properties are wonderful with this, and the smell is a nice intensity that is very enjoyable for me. All right, I'll seal that up for next time. So, top-notch shave with this gear, with a small bore. I think maybe I might just have to use this PDP again tomorrow. Got some samples I want to test out, some other scents that I got in, but I am just determined to figure this lather out for these smaller bore brushes. 2 minutes with 2.5 teaspoons of water. Sounds like maybe my next attempt. Maybe even more than 2 minutes. Who knows? We'll see. We'll get there. I did a face lather with it, and that ended up okay. It was a little bit of a chore, like sometimes many face lathers are. Another thing I'm going to try with this soap is the Marco method, but I'm going to use a Badger for that instead of a smaller bore. It's just because the Badger holds so much more water. And we'll see if any magic gets stirred up with that method. All right, I've got a Barrister & Man Nordost sample coming up. It's just from the tub. It's this awesome orange, sweet orange scent. Like an orange lifesaver, or maybe some orange Kool-Aid, but maybe that orange lifesaver type scent. Just a nice, authentic, sweet orange. It's sold during the fall season, and it's out there. One of his fall seasonal releases. Just pretty much a pure orange scent. There should be a light smokiness to it. Just a very, very light smoky aspect. All right, well, there we go. Lather's a little thin, but we will keep attacking it and see what we find. Good shave. Very happy with this razor and blade. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I sure hope there was something here that has helped you out. You take care. Bye.